Little Wing is a song written by Jimi Hendrix and recorded by the Jimi Hendrix Experience in 1967. It is a slower tempo, rhythm and blues-inspired ballad featuring Hendrix's vocal and guitar with recording studio effects accompanied by bass, drums, and glockenspiel. Lyrically, it is one of several of his songs that reference an idealized feminine or guardian angel-like figure. At about 2.5 minutes in length, it is one of his most concise and melodically focused pieces. The origins of Little Wing have been traced back to the 1966 recording of My Girl, She's a Fox, an R&B song which features Hendrix playing Curtis Mayfield-influenced guitar accompaniment. He developed the song while performing in New York City's Greenwich Village prior to his involvement with producer Chas Chandler. After being inspired by events at the 1967 Monterey Pop Festival, Hendrix completed the song in October 1967, when it was recorded by The Experience during the sessions for their second album Axis, Bold as Love. Little Wing was released with the Axis album in December 1967 in the UK and the following month in the US. As one of only 2 songs from the album to become part of The Experience's concert repertoire, The Experience often performed it live and recordings were issued on early Hendrix posthumous albums Hendrix in the West in 1972 and the Jimi Hendrix Concerts in 1982. More recently, demo versions have been released as well as additional live renditions. Little Wing is one of Hendrix's most popular songs and has become a standard, with interpretations recorded by musicians in a variety of styles. It is ranked number 366 on Rolling Stone magazine's list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. Background: Jimi Hendrix began his career as a rhythm and blues guitarist and performed and recorded with several popular R&B artists, including the Isley Brothers, Don Covay, and Little Richard. He learned from other R&B guitarists, including Curtis Mayfield, who was known for his understated rhythmic fills and chording. Hendrix toured as a support act with Mayfield in 1963. He described the experience as the best gig was with Curtis Mayfield and the Impressions. Curtis was a really good guitarist. I learned a lot in that short time. He probably influenced me more than anyone I'd ever played with up to that time, that sweet sound of his, you know. In 1966, Hendrix recorded a song titled, My Girl, She's a Fox with the Iceman, an R&B duo. Hendrix biographer Harry Shapiro has described it as paced and phrased in the style of Curtis Mayfield, that is virtually a blueprint for Little Wing. Later Hendrix producer John McDermott called his contribution to She's a Fox perhaps the strongest of his pre-Experience career. Hendrix's Curtis Mayfield-influenced guitar styling is the song's strongest attribute. According to Hendrix, Little Wing came from an idea he had originally developed while playing in Greenwich Village, when he was fronting his band Jimmy James and the Blue Flames in the summer of 1966. He later explained that he was further inspired during the Experience's performance at the 1967 Monterey Pop Festival. I got the idea when we were in Monterey and I was just looking at everything around. So I figured that I take everything I see around and put it maybe in the form of a girl maybe, something like that, you know, and call it Little Wing, and then it will just fly away. Everybody's really flying and they're really in a nice mood, like the Police and everybody was really, really great out there. So I just took all these things and put them in one very, very small little matchbox, you know, into a girl and then do it. It was very simple, but I like it though. Recording and composition. In October 1967, recording sessions for the second Jimi Hendrix Experience album Axis, Bold as Love began at Olympic Studios in London. On October 25, after recording the strongly R&B-oriented Wait Until Tomorrow, The Experience recorded an instrumental version of Little Wing. It followed the same chord progression as the later master recording, but had a more forceful rock feel. After another take in the same vein, Chandler called for a different approach. Recording engineer Eddie Kramer explained, Chas knew right away what was needed. He had Jimi slow the tempo down and try it again. After the basic track was completed, Hendrix and Kramer recorded overdubs on October 28, 1967. For his recordings, Hendrix expended considerable effort to achieve the optimal tone for his guitar tracks. For his rhythm guitar, he had set his pickup selector to a non-standard position between the neck and middle settings to achieve a hollow tone, sometimes mistakenly referred to as out of phase. However, for the lead, Kramer later fed the guitar signal through a makeshift Leslie speaker, which was normally used for electric organs. By rotating the sound, Leslie speakers produce vibrato and tremolo-like effects, that is, a pulsing or quivering addition to the sound. Next, Hendrix added a straight glockenspiel to underscore his vocal and guitar. According to Kramer, Jimi always kept an eye out for odd instruments that would be laying about the studio, and found the glockenspiel in Studio A. Last to be recorded was his vocal, which was treated with sound processing techniques to give it an airy sound. These have been variously described as artificial double tracking, phasing, pulse filter equalization, and processing with a Leslie speaker. Regarding the song's arrangement, Shapiro commented, "Musically, Little Wing is structured to lay a gossamer touch across the whole song, from the arresting opening statement and the haunting glockenspiel to the use of a Leslie speaker cabinet for the guitar." According to AllMusic's Matthew Greenwald, it is based on a gentle, soulful chord progression, which guides the melody and is an accurate mirror of the title and lyrics. The song has been notated in April 4th time with 1 bar in February 4th at a slow rock tempo and is built on a chord progression without a bridge section. After an instrumental introduction, there are 2 verses, followed by a guitar solo, which has been described as richly melodic by biographer Keith Chadwick. Shapiro noted the song's brevity. The song fades on a magical solo after only 2 minutes and 25 seconds. Even Live, Little Wing was hardly any longer he said what he wanted to say and stopped. Hendrix's use of guitar chords for the song involves unconventional finger positions and approach to the fretboard. Guitarist Frank Marino explained, "He had the tendency to play with his fingers very flat, on the guitar's fretboard, and he had a very long thumb, so he could come over the top of the neck to play bass notes. That left his fingers in a likely position to do all this chordal-type stuff. Playing with his fingers so flat also got him that double string effect every time, like in Castles Made of Sand or Little Wing. That's an R&B thing." A reference work by Hal Leonard compares it to a pianist's approach, with Hendrix's thumb fretting the bass notes, functioning in almost the same manner as a keyboardist's left hand, and the fingers of his fretting hand can be likened to a pianist's right hand. Leonard also adds that guitarist Adrian Belew describes the technique as a lost art. Lyrics and interpretation. In discussing his lyrics, Jimi Hendrix was characteristically enigmatic. In a 1967 interview, he explained most ballads come across in different ways. "Sometimes you see things in different ways than other people see it. So then you write it in a song. It could represent anything." In different interviews, he acknowledged an American Indian influence on his songs I Don't Live Today, May This Be Love, and Little Wing. He described Little Wing as being based on a very, very simple Indian style, perhaps referring to some mythologies of the indigenous peoples of North America in which spirits inhabit nature and animals, including birds. In one interview, he saw it as self-explanatory, "That's exactly what it's about, like she's walking through the clouds, with a circus mind that's running around, butterflies and zebras, and moonbeams and fairy tales, that's all she ever thinks about, riding with the wind." Music journalist Charles Murray likens the figure to a feminine ideal, "Sometimes she is a spirit, sometimes a fantasy, sometimes a woman as solidly, palpably physical as he is." The figure first appears as Waterfall in May This Be Love, where she offers solace and hope, and as a soulful, loving sprite in Little Wing. However, other writers have suggested that the figure is similar to the guardian angel associated with Christianity, which is clearly what she represents in Hendrix's later song Angel. Hendrix's brother, Leon, interpreted Little Wing as a general tribute. He wrote it for his girlfriends, our aunties, and especially for our mama, who looked over us from high above in the afterlife. Hendrix's handwritten lyrics for Angel use the title My Angel Katharina, which suggests that he saw a connection between the two songs. At the time, Hendrix had just finished a short tour of Scandinavia, where he had performed Little Wing in concert for the first time. At some point he responded to a question, "Love?" I Know a Girl, Katarina, in Sweden. Releases: Little Wing, along with the rest of the tracks for Axis, Bold as Love, was mixed October 31, 1967. Because some of the masters had been lost, stereo remixes were prepared on November 1. On November 2, 1967, a monaural mix was prepared, making Axis the last Hendrix album specifically mixed in mono. When recording engineer Kramer was preparing the album for a new mono reissue, he commented on the differences. Perhaps the most unique track was Little Wing. Jimi's guitar and vocals were much drier while the drum reverb was much more present. It was experimentation. The entire, mono album was all mixed in one day. The album was issued by Track Records in the UK on December 1, 1967, and Reprise Records on January 15, 1968, in the US. The song appears on subsequent reissues of Axis, Bold as Love, which continues to be a best-selling Hendrix album. It has also been included on numerous Hendrix compilation albums, including The Essential Jimi Hendrix, Stone Free, The Ultimate Experience, Experience Hendrix, The Best of Jimi Hendrix, and Voodoo Child, The Jimi Hendrix Collection. Live performances: Little Wing was one of only 2 songs from Axis that the Experience regularly performed in concert, the other being Spanish Castle Magic. Except for the glockenspiel and a song's ending, their live performances generally follow the studio arrangement. Since the Axis recording ends on a fade, Hendrix needed to devise a different live ending. Early recordings show a progression to an open chord, while later ones have more elaborate single-string guitar improvisation with effects, such as wah-wah, before a chiming final chord. For one 1968 performance in San Francisco, Hendrix's guitar signal was routed through a Leslie speaker. Writer Dave Rubin commented, "The real Leslie played outdoors, out of the studio like this really gives a very delicate, gentle swirl to the chords and helps the chordal embellishments in the intro." This version was also rendered at a slower tempo, making it somewhat longer. On January 8, 1968, The Experience debuted the song at the Concerthuset in Stockholm, Sweden, recordings of which have appeared on bootleg albums. Other live versions appear on stages, Paris 68, the Jimi Hendrix Concerts, and Hendrix in the West. These recordings have been reissued on Live in Paris and Ottawa 1968, Winterland, and the Jimi Hendrix Experience box set. The 1969 Royal Albert Hall live recording was included on singles issued in the UK and US in 1972. A March 17, 1968, instrumental jam with Hendrix and members of the Paul Butterfield Blues Band and the Electric Flag is built around Little Wing. Hendrix recorded it for his personal use around the time he began recording tracks for Electric Ladyland at the Record Plant Studio in New York. This low-fidelity tape from the Café Au Go-Go, along with others from the Generation Club and the Scene in New York, was later stolen from his apartment and has appeared on several bootleg albums over the years. Recognition and legacy: in 2004, Rolling Stone magazine included Little Wing on its list of the 500 greatest songs of all time at number 366. As one of Jimi Hendrix's most popular and interpreted songs, Little Wing has gone on to become a standard. Some artists who have recorded it include: Notes, footnotes, citations, references, Belmo, Loveless, Steve. Jimi Hendrix, Experience the Music. Collector's Guide Publishing Incorporated. ISBN 1-896522-45-9. Black, Johnny. Jimi Hendrix, The Ultimate Experience. Thunder's Mouth Press. ISBN 1-56025-240-5. Brown, Tony. Jimi Hendrix, A Visual Documentary His Life, Loves and Music. Omnibus Press. ISBN 978-0-7119-2761-2. Brown, Tony. Jimi Hendrix, Talking. Omnibus Press. ISBN 978-1-84449-006-6. Cross, Charles. A Room Full of Mirrors, A Biography of Jimi Hendrix. Hyperion Books. ISBN 0-7868-8841-5. Fay, J.Y.M. Axis, Bold as Love. Jimi Hendrix Experience. MCA Records. MCAD 11601. Fairchild, Michael. Stages, Stockholm 1967. Jimi Hendrix. Reprise Records 926732-2. Experience Hendrix, The Best of Jimi Hendrix Transcribed Scores. Hal Leonard Corporation. 1998. ISBN 978-0-7935-9144-2. Henderson, David. Scuss Me While I Kiss the Sky, The Life of Jimi Hendrix. Bantam Book. ISBN 0-553-01334-3. Hendrix, Leon. Mitchell, Adam. Jimi Hendrix, A Brother's Story. Thomas Dunn Books. ISBN 978-0-312-66881-5. McDermott, John. Kramer, Eddie. Hendrix, Setting the Records Straight. Warner Books. ISBN 0-446-39431-9. McDermott, John. Cox, Billy. Kramer, Eddie. Jimi Hendrix, Sessions. Little, Brown and Company. ISBN 0-316-55549-5. McDermott, John. South Saturn Delta. Jimi Hendrix. MCA Records. MCAD 11684. McDermott, John. The Jimi Hendrix Experience. Jimi Hendrix Experience. MCA Records 08811-23162. McDermott, John. Kramer, Eddie. Cox, Billy. Ultimate Hendrix. Backbeat Books. ISBN 0-87930-938-5. McDermott, John. West Coast Seattle Boy, The Jimi Hendrix Anthology. Jimi Hendrix. Legacy. 88,697,769,272. Murray, Charles Shah. Crosstown Traffic. St. Martin's Press. ISBN 0-312-06324-5. Ogunjobi, Rotmi. The Essential Jimi Hendrix. Lulu.com. ISBN 978-1-4116-9923-6. Rabi, Stephen. Black Gold, The Lost Archives of Jimi Hendrix. Billboard Books. ISBN 0-8230-7854-X. Rabi, Stephen. Schreiber, Brad. Becoming Jimi Hendrix. Da Capo Press. ISBN 978-0-306-81910-0. Rubin, Dave. Whitehill, Dave. Octavia and Univibe. Bella Godiva Music Al Leonard Publishing. ISBN 0-7935-1403-7. Shadwick, Keith. Jimi Hendrix, Musician. Backbeat Books. ISBN 0-87930-764-1. Shapiro, Harry. Glabeek, Caesar. Jimi Hendrix, Electric Gypsy. St. Martin's Press. ISBN 0-312-05861-6.